Let us pray. Almighty God, we are grateful for all of the blessings of this day. We are grateful to be gathered here as we seek one common purpose, to seek the good of our city. We thank you for these leaders, council people, the mayor, city staff. We ask that you guide them by your wisdom, give them listening ears and compassionate hearts. We thank you for citizens who care enough to speak. Lord, give us all the right words to say. Give us respect for one another and help us to honor you in all that we do and say. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. We have one presentation this evening, and I'm going to come down front. Eric Cunningham. Yeah, you can stay right there. That's fine. If you want anywhere else. Eric Cunningham was recently presented the Lou Seck Award that recognized the Missouri Municipal Attorneys Association Attorney of the Year, whose exemplary public service best displays the same high standards of professionalism and ethical conduct exhibited by Lou Seck, one of the founders of the association. During his 26 years as city attorney, Eric was involved in Charter Review Commission, a complete rezoning, numerous annexations, and several lawsuits against the city. He has helped his councils navigate many election ballot language issues and has assisted in personnel issues, ethics questions, and training of both city personnel, council, and advisory board members. He provides review and feedback on proposed legislation. He's been a very active and dedicated member of Missouri Municipal Attorneys Association. He's also served on Missouri Municipal League Policy Resolutions Committee. He was appointed to MMA directors in 2014, vice president in 2018, president in 2019, and finally immediate past president in 2020. Even beyond the job, Eric is still a public servant. Since 1986, he served on the board of directors of Mid-America Teen Challenge International, an organization that helps people overcome addiction so they can live happy, healthy, and productive lives. He has served as president of that organization since 2007. Please join me in honoring Eric. This is the plaque he was awarded, and I will tell you it says, W. Eric Cunningham by the Missouri Municipal Attorneys Association, this 24th day of July, 2021, to recognize public service that displays the same high standards of accomplishments, professional and ethical conduct as the exhibited by Lou Seck, City Attorney for Berkeley, 1954 to 1994, and Hazelwood, 1970 to 1994. Eric, we're proud of you. I know that was a big deal for Eric, and we had to do that.
Thank you.
We'll move right into communications and reports. Council?
I'm just going to reiterate what I said during the last council session.
everybody, I just want everyone to pay attention to anything that's happening in the world about the Delta variant of the COVID-19 virus. Please take precautions, but then also encourage yourself and others to potentially go and get the vaccine. That appears to be a way to keep yourself safe. Currently upwards in the upper 90s of percentage that will keep you out of the hospital. So please encourage others around you to protect themselves, think of themselves, and think of themselves as the region, protect the region and our healthcare workers from the spread of the Delta variant. So please just kind of consider that, encourage folks to go out and get their vaccines.
Anybody else? Not everybody's going to be quiet tonight, are they? I can't believe that. I'll give my brief report. It's brief too. Since the last meeting, I've attended the SIMPO board meeting. Got to participate in the Keep Cape Beautiful tour for 2 different wards. And I guess we'll hear more about that when the whole thing's finished. But was really, really impressed that one of our wards which is consistently kind of litter, was very, very low. So Dan, you've done a great job in Ward 1.
That's not my personal.
He's out there on the weekends, aren't you, Dan?
Neighbors in one are picking up.
Although we did spot an old couch on the side of the road out by Cape Rock Park, and accused him of dumping his couch out there, but he said it wasn't his. So
It was not my couch.
good. Okay. I did have the honor this afternoon of welcoming Governor Parson here to Cape as part of the bicentennial tour he's doing around the state down at Fort D. And that's a real appropriate place to have a little bicentennial thing at an old fort in Cape Girardeau. It's a neat little thing this afternoon, although it did get kind of warm out there. So I really don't have anything else. Kenny, you have anything? Nope. Okay. Are there any appearances this evening by advisory board applicants? Applicants for any advisory board? Seeing none. Any appearances this evening for any items that are not listed on the agenda this evening? Yes, sir. Long time no see.
Different topic tonight.
How are you, sir?
Doing well, Dr. Fox. Good evening to the council. I just want to make a couple of comments about the
Please
increasing...
identify yourself and your address.
Excuse
for
me.
the
My name
record.
is Richard Bollwerk, Bollwerk. I live on Parkside Drive, North Cape, Girardeau. I wanted to make some comments about the increasing deer population in the north end of the city, and I would like to urge the city council to take more aggressive steps toward resolving the issue. The areas along Cape Rock near Sibley Park, as well as the neighborhoods surrounding Kiwanis Park, are being completely overrun by herds of deer. And I'm not exaggerating. I take some photos and things like that. The numbers have been increasing over the last 3 years, primarily due to people feeding the deer. In the past, in my neighborhood, there would be 1 or 2 deer walk through my yard or be in the neighborhood. Now, there's 15 to 20 daily, sometimes more than that. In the city ordinance, Chapter 6, Article 1, Section 6 through 10, it prohibits supplemental feeding of deer. I'm concerned that the ordinance is not being enforced. There are many residents putting out piles and piles of corn and other large number of deer that would not normally be in the area. In some cases, those deer are becoming domesticated. They lay down and they wait to be fed. They have no fear of humans, and once drawn into the neighborhood and eat the corn, they move on to other yards, eating roses, other flowering plants and vegetables. They bring in disease and cause safety issues for drivers as they cross the roads. In April of this year, while driving on Cape Rock Drive near Perryville Road, 4 deer ran in front of my vehicle, and a 5th deer ran into the driver's side door of my car, causing $2,800 damage. I have replaced hundreds of dollars of plants and shrubs in my yard due to the deer. I realize the city has plans for a managed deer hunt to take place this November in order to eliminate up to 80 deer. According to what I've seen on the website regarding the hunt, it appears that the hunting areas are nowhere near where the greatest number of deer are. 4 of the 5 designated hunt areas appear to be along the river, the country club, and the Cape Rock. Delaware Park, I think it's on Lexington and Old Sprig, is the closest to my area, but that site is limited to taking perhaps 6 deer. With the heavy feeding going on by residents, the deer have no reason to venture out of North Cape. As I said, they're becoming domesticated and content to just lay around and be fed. A better hunting location would be Kiwanis Park. You could close the park for a month of November and allow hunting there. Probably not something the city wants to do. As we get closer to the actual approved managed hunt, those opposed will undoubtedly start complaining again about how inhumane it is and that there are better ways to control the deer. I say that if people stop feeding the deer, the hunt might not be needed. I talked with conservation agents and they told me that feeding the deer is inhumane. It's the worst thing to do for those wild animals. In conclusion, I would like to see the city seriously enforce the ordinance on no feeding the deer within the city limits. Please get the deer out of the residential areas and neighborhoods, protect property, and make it safer and healthier for all residents. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
Anybody else for any item that is not listed on the agenda this evening? If not, we'll move into the agenda review. Kenny?
Thank you, Mayor. Council, we added one new item to the consent agenda. That would be number 14, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Tote Roofing for the River Heritage Museum renovations. I'd like to just make that note. And the other items on the consent are second and third reviews for you this evening. The new ordinances that we have tonight: 1, an ordinance appropriating expenditures for funds related to the American Rescue Plan funds for public safety professional services. An ordinance appropriating the expenditure of ARP funds to rehab manholes and mainline sewer infrastructure. An ordinance appropriating the expenditure of ARP funds for the Lorimer Street project. An ordinance appropriating the expenditure of ARP funds for fiber optic lines from the old City Hall to the new City Hall. An ordinance vacating the city's interest in the former Simmers Drive right-of-way. An ordinance accepting a permanent water line easement from Star Value Cape LP for Star Value subdivision. An ordinance accepting a permanent utility easement from Patricia Lee Pop for the vacated Northview Drive. An ordinance granting a special use permit to Mark A. Conrad and Delorch Properties LLC for purposes of constructing, maintaining, and operating a vehicles business at 1295 Independence Street. An ordinance approving record plat of Ferndale subdivision. An ordinance annexing land into the city limits located at 530 County Road 317 upon the request of JMD Industries. Ordinance amending the code of ordinance by zoning newly annexed property located at 530 County Road 317 as C2 Highway Commercial District. An ordinance extending the boundaries of Ward 6 to include property newly annexed into the city limits. and an ordinance approving the levying of an annual city revenue tax, public health tax, special business district number 2 tax for the fiscal year ending on 30th of June, 2022. Mayor, that concludes the new ordinances for this afternoon.
Okay. We have, we have 3 appointments, and we have, under other business, we've got an appeal this evening to talk about, so. At this point, we will move into regular session and have the roll call.
Bob Fox,
Here?
Robbie Guard,
Here.
Stacy Kinder,
Here.
Shelley Moore,
Here.
Dan Presson,
Here.
Nate Thomas,
Here.
Shannon Truxell.
Here.
At this point, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Robbie, seconded by Dan. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. We have 3 public hearings this evening. The first is a public hearing to consider vacating the city's interest in the former Seymour Drive right-of-way in the city of Cape Charlotte, Missouri. Anybody here this evening to speak on behalf of vacating that little section of right-of-way? It's at Seymour's and Arnold, I think. Not seeing anyone rise, I will close that public hearing. The second public hearing this evening is on the proposed tax rates for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022. And that's the agenda item previously addressed. Anybody here to speak on behalf of the proposed tax rates? If not, I will close that public hearing. The third is a public hearing to consider a request for a special use permit for the purpose of constructing, maintaining, and operating a vehicle sales business at 1295 Independence Street.
It's me.
Yes, sir.
My name is Mark A. Conrad, born and raised in Cape. I'm wanting to buy 1295 Independence lot, just on the corner of Independence and Parkside there, to put a used car lot. I've been in the car business since 1988, started out Jerry Weezer. I spent 16 years with KGC Pontiac. I left there, went in business for myself. The place there right now is just a gravel lot, 2 portable junk buildings. I'm willing to follow every code the city wants me to do. Mr. Shrimplin's helped me out a bunch, put up a brand new building, blacktop lot, serve the community. Car range anywhere between $6,000 to $22,000. I am set up with 7 different lenders, just like a new car dealer. Paperwork's just like a new car dealer. In fact, I even offer the same extended service contracts as a new car dealer. I will work there from 9 in the morning to 6 in the evening. Like I said, it'd be a brand new building. Running water, central heat and air, sheetrock inside, cleanup stall, blacktop lot, lighting. It'll look nice. Good curb appeal. Right now, you drive by there and just looks like a random lot. That's all it looks like. I'm asking y'all please to give me my special usage permit so I can get started. Okay. I have already spent $2,800 on a survey. I gave the city $135 or $40, whatever he wanted. I've been talking to Strickland engineer for this water situation, good water, bad water. Then I'll be putting in a concrete slab and then bringing the building all on up. Now over on an entrance coming in, it is 18 foot wide. I was thick and run up in that property 10 foot. Over on the other end where there's an entrance already, that will be blacktop. I was told that'd suit the city in there anyway. I'm willing to do anything I can do to try to get my special usage permit, to be honest with you. I'm 54 years old. I plan on working until I'm at least 69 to 70 years old. Okay. I do know that at one time there was a used car lot there back in the 60s. Down the street heading east from my place, there's a Ray Southern used car lot there. I call him a junk dealer. He'd been there since probably 64, 65, but when y'all wide street, because it flooded and that, he got grandfathered in. When y'all did that, you rezoned that area, so that's why I'm here. Thank you for hearing me out.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Appreciate you being here. Any other comments? If not, I will close that public hearing. Are there any individuals here this evening who would like to comment on items listed on the agenda this evening? Anybody here would like to comment on anything on the agenda this evening? If not?
Does that mean opposition to these people?
Yes, it's on the agenda.
Yes.
Okay. Microphone's yours.
Mark, go back here for you. Thank you. Good evening. I hope you bear with me. This is not my forte to be in front of the council. Mayor Fox, City Council members, my name is Mark Bodian. I'm the president of Trinity Lutheran Church. And I'm here tonight representing Trinity's congregation as we are here to oppose granting a liquor license to Mr. Adam Gahn at 531 Broadway. I have a petition here that has been signed after services the last couple of weeks. It's 12 pages. There's 313 signatures, and if I may,
Thank you.
this petition reads, "We, the undersigned, strongly request that the City Council enforce the ordinance on the books and not allow a bar to operate within 200 feet of a church and decline the variance request for a liquor license at 531 Broadway." I have 5 areas that I'm going to try to cover tonight and do that quickly. The measurements, the figures I give you, I've either myself or we've been on the recorder's website, the assessor's website, and got this information. First, I'd like to read the highlights of the ordinance. First, no license shall be granted for the sale of intoxicating liquor as defined in this chapter within 200 feet of any school or church or other building regularly used for a place of worship. Second, the word church shall mean church building erected and maintained as a church building and in which services are regularly held. And I might say that's been since 1854 and still going. Third, the 200-foot restriction set out herein shall be measured from that portion of the licensee building which is nearest to the school or church and is measured from building to building and not from lot to lot. Being in the building business, I still have 100-foot tape in my truck. I got out and measured it. It's 51 foot, 8 1/4 inches, which is a far cry from the 200 foot. Again, Trinity has been at this location since 1854 and is clearly visible from 531 Broadway. We first received notice of this variance request on Monday, June 28th. 3 days later, the Board of Adjustments met and declined Mr. Gahn's request. So tonight, here we are again with Mr. Gahn appealing their decisions to you, the City Council. In the Board of Adjustment meeting, Mr. Gahn was asked if he had contacted the church. His reply was he called to talk to the pastor, and the pastor wasn't in. He left no callback number, and he did not follow up with another call. He did say that he had talked to 2 people on the parking lot, but we don't know who those 2 people were or if they were even affiliated with the church. One of the board members then asked him if he was in a hurry or if he was willing to take time and put it off and consult myself and the church council. And his reply was, no, I need to get my permit. I have expensive imported wine ordered. He did finally reach out this past week to our chairman of the Board of Elders, Mr. Scott Blank, who couldn't be here tonight. He's on family vacation before school starts. Scott assured him that the church's position wasn't going to change. The second item, again, the ordinance is very clear. Our church has been there since 1854 and is clearly visible from Broadway. When I measured the building, as I said, it's 51 foot 8 1/4. When we checked the recorder's office, the entire building is 115 feet front to back. The total combined to our property is 165 feet. The entire building is within that 200-foot restriction. Not one part of it gets past the 200. Our properties adjoin, and when we step out of our north entrance, which is our main entrance, his building is right there, 51 feet away. The third item, during the week of the Board of Adjustments, we were having Vacation Bible School. We had 100 kids and parents coming and going till 8 p.m. that night. This past year with COVID, we decided that we'd have a parking lot service once a month on Saturday night, 5 to 7 p.m. Went over well, and we have that. It's my understanding Gon's operating hours will be 4 to 10 weekdays, 4 to 11 Friday and night, overlapping both our activities as well as that of the Discovery Playhouse. Third item that I have is the term was thrown out that this is upscale. Well, the way I read the ordinance, it says intoxicating liquor. I'm not sure inexpensive or expensive liquor has any different effect. Fourth item is parking. The city knows very well that you have a parking problem on Broadway. I counted those today. There's 8 spots in that block. So if he's going to have to use the corner lot, which is our property but is leased to the city because of your parking issue. And I just would have to think that if it becomes parking for a bar in a few years when the lease comes up for renewal again, I doubt we'll be as receptive as we have in the past. Fifth item, Mr. Gon is an attorney and he's aware of the ordinance, or should have been. He should have done a lot more legwork early on before trying to push this through. He knew the church's position, and that is why he made limited attempts to contact and discuss with our pastor or our council. One of the things we got thrown at us this week is, that had a permit issued to it 3 years ago. Yes, in 2018, it came up Board of Adjustments, and the Board of Adjustments granted the license. Before it could come to fruition, the folks couldn't get the financing and it fell through. Or we'd have been here just like we are tonight, opposing it in front of the council. The second thing that was thrown at us this week is, my gosh, there's bars up and down Broadway. First Presbyterian Church has got them all around them and they don't care. So they mentioned Minglewood, top of the marquee, and Katie O'Farrell's. Minglewood is 300 feet from First Presbyterian Church. It's 100 foot beyond the 200-foot exclusion. Top of Mark is 375 feet. Those aren't even good examples to use. Katie O'Farrell's, if you're as old as I am, 69 years old, as long as I can remember, the Royal New Orleans, and Katie O'Farrell's has been a bar and a restaurant across the corner. Probably was there long before the ordinance and has been grandfathered in. So I don't see how that's a point to make. None of these properties adjoin any church, as does Mr. Gon's. In closing, we used to respect and protect churches and schools over businesses, or we wouldn't have this ordinance. And that if the city doesn't continue that position, they might as well take the ordinance off the books in favor of all business. We are fortunate in Cape Girardeau that we still have great support for our churches and schools. This is a simple matter. The law is clear with the 200-foot requirement. Trinity Lutheran Church asks that the council hold true to the ordinance and vote no to the variance to this liquor license for Mr. Adam Gahn at 531 Broadway. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Answer any questions if anybody has any.
I don't have any. No?
Our pastor's here. Do you like to say something?
My name is Douglas Bridey. I am the senior pastor at Trinity Lutheran Church and School. And as Mark Bodian said, our church has been in downtown Cape for 167 years. We love it here. We love being part of Old Town Cape. If you come ever and are on our parking lot, you can look and see the bridge. You can see the river campus. You can see the federal building. You can see all the improvements that have been made on Broadway. You can see the university. We love being the city on a hill right there in the middle of all of this. It's a privilege. And we are here today just simply to ask you to uphold the ordinance that is already on the books. We want our community to be family friendly. And as Mark said, a place of worship certainly wants to be able to have services outside and to come in and out of our church without being concerned about any distractions. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Kent Ziegfield. I am the Vice Chairman of Trinity Lutheran Church, but I'm also in the unique scenario of being a downtown businessman for over 50 years. My family has operated a business in the downtown district since 1939. I recognize the fact that as a downtown businessman that I have to operate in the presence of bars. But over the last few years, I have had 3 of the windows in one of my buildings knocked out. In one of those incidents, a young man was unhappy because he got kicked out of Hot Shots Bar, and he decided to take it out on one of the windows in my building, a 5-foot by 6-foot piece of plate glass. The police followed this gentleman all the way to the Honkers boat dock and found him with his arms wrapped around one of the river buoys, holding on for dear life. We've also had to deal with people throwing up in front of our business, urinating in front of our business, and worse. As a businessman, I accept that that is part of what I have to deal with downtown. But this should not be what we have to deal with as a church. On our parking lot, on our facilities, around our people coming and going to our church services in the evenings, we should not have to deal with this. Believe me when I tell you that I am not opposed to business. I am a businessman through and through. I love business and I respect the right of anyone to have a business in this community. But I also understand that this law was put into place for a purpose, and that is to protect businesses, our churches, and from the problems that I have had to deal with in the downtown business district as a businessman. And I respectfully request that you continue to uphold that law or recommendation and keep this business from operating within 200 feet of our church properties. I thank you.
Thanks, Kent.
Good evening. My name's Adam. I'm why there's a whole big kerfuffle here today. I am, as Mr. Ziegfeld mentioned, I'm an attorney here in town. My law practice has been at the property in question for approximately 2 years. We haven't had any parking issues that I'm aware of since then. I live on Cape Rock Drive, just so I can identify myself. Councilman Gard is my councilman. I talked to him a little bit about this. Real quickly, I'd like to just go backward a little bit. I'm not going to take a whole lot of time to address what Mr. Bodian has brought up, but I would like to come back to that at the end. But I acquired this building back in 2019, beginning of 2019. I don't recall the month exactly. Kind of the COVID years got me a little confused on some of the timelines. But back in July of 2018, the Board of Adjustment, which is the decision we're here to talk about today, issued a liquor license to the building in which that I currently operate my law practice in addition to my proposed bar. I was aware of this because there was a sign posted both on the window, and I was familiar with the property owner, Mr. Ritter, at that point. When I made the decision to purchase the building, I had relied on the fact that the Board of Adjustment, as well as the City Council, had previously granted a liquor license to that establishment. As a lawyer, I can appreciate precedent, and as a business owner and investor, I can appreciate political leaders following the same path that they've charted prior. The last time I was actually here at that, or in front of the council, was also that same month, back in July of 2018, in which there was another liquor license at issue in a Board of Adjustment appeal involving the outlet. It's a convenience store. On that evening, most of the council here had voted to support the reversal of the Board of Adjustment's denial of that liquor license, and in fact issued the liquor license that were on a question here. So before we kind of get into a little bit more of why I think you should grant it, but the proposed bar is in the front space of my building on 531 Broadway. The address has changed at the request of the city because it was originally going to be a unit, but it's 529 is the physical structure. For those that aren't familiar with the general area, I share a wall on the west side with Showlines and on the east side with the beauty supply store, directly across the street from Amory's Antiques. The proposed bar in question is going to serve food and upscale wine. I'm sensitive to the idea that there are many establishments in town that are a kind of a raucous party atmosphere. This isn't proposed to be one of those places. There are plenty of places that do that, but my place isn't going to be one of those. For a couple of reasons. First and foremost, that's not the kind of establishment that I generally like. And secondly, it shares the building that I own with my law practice, so I don't want to do anything that would bring like bad vibes, I guess, to my office and how I make my primary living. But secondly, there's just nothing around here that's like that. There's not a dedicated space where you can try different and unique wines. But also serve food. And that's what I proposed to put there. And that's what I proposed to put there when I bought the building and invested north of $100,000 making it look better. When I redid the storefront, I relied on the existing city council's decisions about how those liquor licenses were issued and treated. The liquor license was there when I bought the building, and I don't think that I should be purposely penalized by making the space smaller and more restrictive and making improvements to the building by now, a reversal in what the council's decision had been. The city staff has issued a report to the Board of Adjustment wherein they have recommended the approval of my liquor license, both at the Board of Adjustment level in addition to here. So I'd respectfully ask they've done in the past and what they did into my specific building in the past and reverse the Board of Adjustment's decision. I would like to take just a couple of minutes to address what some of the church folks here have raised, and I'm sensitive to those issues. Although, yes, there is an ordinance on the books, it has consistently, at least with regards to the specific physical location that I'm in, it has been previously permitted before, and that's what this whole process is about. Mr. Bodian had mentioned that had there been that situation in the past, they'd be right here. Well, there wasn't an appeal taken from the last Board of Adjustment meeting. That means that the process had gone forward to allow the liquor license to be issued. So once the Board of Adjustment in the previous instance had gone ahead and issued their consent, there wasn't an appeal taken by any of the aggrieved stakeholders here. So had they wanted to blast, they could have. So additionally, this isn't any sort of thing. There's going to be, at the last meeting, there was a concern about the next person that goes in. We're not here on a variance request. People keep talking about variance. That's not what we're here for. We're here on a request for an issue of a liquor license. Those have to be approved anytime they change hands. So in the event that my specific spot was issued a liquor license and I proposed to sell the business or sell the building or do whatever I wanted with it, and if it will go into the hands of someone that wanted to put the type of establishment that a lot of the people here are concerned about, then we could go all through this process already again. So finally, I would just like to say I'm sensitive to Mr. Ziegfield's, again, position about these people, damaging his business. That I don't condone crime of any sort. And I've also submitted for consideration by the council letters of support from the Shivlines, Lori Everett across the street, Jennings, right up. This firmly supportive of my business going in there. This is a stretch of Broadway where if I walk out my front door, I can throw a rock and hit the Rialto development, and I can throw a rock and hit 2 more bars up the street. to deny my liquor license, but unfairly penalize me just because of the situation that I find myself in will be a deviation for the precedent the city's established. Essentially, what we're asking is that this follow what it has done for that specific property in the past, and what I think is ultimately going to be a good addition to the business community, addition to that stretch of Broadway, and is also the desire of all the surrounding business owners that are there living and working every day, not just days there are services there. I did have a meeting with the Board of Elders president, Mr. Blank. At that meeting, I tried to undo some of the concerns that were raised. I offered to pay for some signage to be put up in the parking lot. I offered to pay for some chains or something to block off the private church parking lot, something to alleviate some of those concerns. But it sounds like the concerns at large were just simply that we don't want a bar there. But again, there is a bar that's catty corner going in, at least 3 bars at the Rialto right there. And there are bars exactly up the street. My establishment isn't going to be that type of establishment. That's a concern. So we just ask that the city council follow, again, the recommendation of the city staff, the existing precedent that's already there, and the request of the local business community that's in our block. I will be happy if you have any questions. Yeah.
How many patrons do you plan on serving at full capacity?
I believe the occupancy is at 48. I think that includes the outdoor seating in my patio, in addition to the mechanical room, since I don't really plan on putting anyone in the mechanical room, and the weather in Southeast Missouri isn't really convenient for putting people outside most of the time. You're looking at 30 people or so, max.
There's parking on Broadway.
There is. There's also parking on the adjacent side street. That's where my current clientele parks.
And do you know what the sign at the church parking lot, which is least the city, says?
I don't. Again, I don't park there.
Okay. It says public parking.
Thank you.
In a patio, I wasn't familiar with that. Is that on the rear side of the property?
No, the patio's in the front. If you look at the storefront, when we gutted the building, we set the storefront back about 6 or 7 feet, so there's an existing kind of like small, it's like maybe a table and a few chairs in the front. There's no actual access to our properties and our lots are separated by an alley, an actual alley. They're not adjacent.
I knew that.
They're separated by a physical alley in which you can drive back and forth, and that's used for deliveries. Then there's a fence and a row of trees. So the back entrance that Mr. Bodian was referring to is just to look at my office in the back. There's no entrance or exit from the proposed bar site. Both of those entrances are on Broadway. There's no access to my office. They're 2 separate physical spaces and 2 separate addresses.
I have one more question. Yeah. Can you see the church frontage of your business?
No, unless you have extra vision. But no, if you're standing on, like, anywhere in that area, you would have to walk up past Shovel Lines West, which is 2 separate storefronts, and then go around the corner. So you can't from either entrance or exit of the proposed bar.
But you can see the church from the back of the building where your business is?
From my space, you can't because there are trees.
Okay.
But if you go over a little bit to behind Shovel Lines, you could. Any other questions?
So just to be clear,
Yes.
your patrons would have to go out, in and out the front.
Yes,
and
the Broadway.
Then around for parking.
Well, there's parking on Broadway.
Yes,
But yes.
but I mean,
Correct.
yeah, there's no back.
Right, and the current setup for my clients to my office is the same. The public entrance is on Broadway. I go in and out the back entrance, so I can kind of be convenient that way, which is the inference that Mr. Bodian's referring to. I had hoped that I could meet with Mr. Bodian as well, but he declined to meet with me when I met with Mr. Plank.
I think it's interesting that you call upon precedent to support your case, but at the same time, you then say, in the future, if it changes hands, then it will have to be voted on again. But then again, they would probably use precedents at that point. So your use of precedents, and then you're saying, precedents doesn't matter. I think it doesn't work.
I don't think.
Trust me, I'm not a Christian, and therefore.
Okay, that's
I-
right.
Thank you.
You
Adam,
you don't have the podium, sir.
May I respond? May I just respond to that? I appreciate that. I think what that comment was made for was that in the event, at the Board of Adjustment meeting, there was concern that if there is an established liquor establishment there, then somebody could just come and take it over and turn it into a college bar. That's the only reason I mentioned that.
Which, of course, they will use precedent in order to do that.
But you were
Okay.
issued the liquor license in 2019.
No, the prior owners were.
Prior owners were, and what did they sell?
They didn't do anything.
They ran out of
didn't.
funding and
Oh, right,
they
okay.
weren't able to complete, it was a gastropub, right?
The McClins, I believe, were their names. I brought the minutes. They're in the Board of Adjustment meeting from these.
And then the property changed hands
Got
and
it.
he purchased it. So it was going to be a lease arrangement prior. Yeah.
You mentioned that you can't see the church entrance from the back of your lot, but our lots are adjacent, they butt right to each other. And we, yes, we have a fence there because, but we don't want to be seeing the comings and goings, and there is space there for people to be walking back and forth. We hold outside services on Saturday nights, and that could very well be interrupted by anything that's going on there. But the properties are adjacent. How many other bars are adjacent and butt up to church?
Don't let them get a debate. They get that.
Okay, we're not debating this on the floor. Anybody else, any other council members have questions for Mr. Gahn?
I don't.
I have one more question. If you do not obtain this liquor license, are you planning on relocating to another place?
I think I'm just going to rent the space. I bought the building with the intent of putting both my law office and my bar there. I've invested a significant amount of money making that space look better and designing it for that purpose. And so since my establishment there, then I'm planning to just put it up for lease.
How many employees could you potentially hire with this business?
I would say, regular, I would say 4 or 5 perhaps. We have 3, including plus myself, but I think given the occupancy, you'd say 4 or 5 of serious hours, and then probably some part-time folks. I just haven't gotten there because construction has stopped.
I have a matter of question maybe for staff. If we were to grant this liquor license and say fears of those that are opposed to it were to happen, they are able to file a complaint, and then we are able to revoke at any time said liquor license. We reserve that right as a council, right?
Yeah, that's correct. We have revoked liquor license since you've been on council.
Yeah, I know. I just was saying, if that was the case, that's what the process would be. If we were to actually grant this, and then it is to be, the circumstances at hand do come to fruition, then that's what we have.
Did you not know that there was a church there when you decided to make it the,
I absolutely did.
You did?
I did. I knew that it was there, and I knew that there was already an existing Board of Adjustment decision issuing a liquor license at which the church opposed it. Mr. Ziegfield was here speaking against it at that point as well.
So you're not shocked that the church wanted to be where they were all along, and now you coming in and you being a hindrance or whatever?
I think I'm a little surprised, given that the previous iteration of this was supported by the Board of Adjustment when it was the entire building was going to be used as a bar. And now that it's a significantly smaller proposed establishment, that there was a reversal of the Board of Adjustment's action. So I think to that I'm surprised. I'm not surprised that there's some concern. You talk to any group of people, you'll have different positions on things, and that's totally understandable. And that's why I had offered to do something to try to assuage some of those fears. I just don't think that those concerns are going to be materialized.
This is just a question for city staff. The last time that Katie O'Farrell's changed hands in ownership and the liquor license had to be renewed, did we have any opposition?
Well, no. I financed it. There weren't any issues.
What about when Minglewood went in with Mount Moriah across the street? Any opposition?
I can't
It's
speak
not
to
within
that.
the distance, so it doesn't make any difference.
Minglewood's like 95 feet from Mount Moriah Church.
It is.
What?
There was no opposition.
No, I wasn't aware there's a church there then.
It's directly across the street.
Okay.
And then I guess in the future, with where it's at and the old Broadway Beer Garden, So historic parts of Cape Girardeau are dense. We have dense population. These parts of the city of Cape were not built for luxurious parking lots and large-scale distance between places. That's the difficulty of developing and supporting business in a small town, is that we have a dense historic core where in the 1850s, everybody had to walk from church to home to the bar to the liquor store all over. And so that's the thing that makes this difficult, and the thing that makes this interesting is because we are a historic city. We are a densely historic city. Everything is very close together. And so as, Broadway develops and changes, as, our shopping trends develop and change, things develop and change.
One thing that I would say is that the precedents in this matter mean nothing. I mean, if the Board of Adjustment, I can tell you, if this congregation would have come when we granted it in 18, I would have been a no vote then, but they didn't. They are now, and I'm a no vote. I'm not going to go against that congregation. Sorry, Adam, I'm not. That's just, if they would have done it then, like I said, 1854, the church, the school, as I told you in my email, my great-grandparents got married there, so did my grandparents. I'm going to support that. And I would have done it with Katie O'Farrell's or any other one. But we haven't had opposition, and we do on this one. So.
And again, the only thing I would say to that is that in 2018, you were an aye vote in support of the outlet being granted, when there were 2 churches and the 300+ signatures being submitted opposed. So there is an existing precedent.
Well, that's on my vote. So, like I said, it matters not.
I understand.
Okay. I've heard obviously from Scott Blank, heard from people in support of you. I appreciate business, and I just think that there are certain ordinances and laws, and I do agree with Mark. Like, it is okay to still support a church, and it's okay. And there are going to be some of us that support the church on this and some that are not, and that's fine. But I'm going to support the church.
The ordinance is there for a reason, and it was created for a reason. And generally, I stand by those ordinances. I'm a little disappointed that you did not make an effort to go to the church before you even started this process and have a discussion.
Mayor, Your Honor, I did. In fact, Mr. Bodian mentioned that. I made a call, and I had gone over there.
You made a call, that's it. You didn't talk to anybody, but you never followed up. You never met with the Board of Elders. You never met with people from the church. And in my mind, that's, a good businessman is going to do those sort of things. If you've got people opposing it, you've got to meet with them, and you've got to talk with them.
I made an attempt. I'm sorry. I should have gone over there and just set up shop.
And you didn't
on
do
the
that.
doorstep.
And, we have a great relationship with the churches in this community. We have a lot of people of faith. And I would have to side with the church also.
And, I hate to say this too, but we have a strategic partner in Trinity Church that we have 50 spaces that we lease from them, which Mark brought up. And I've got a huge issue with the fact that if we're going to potentially lose 50 spaces in a couple of years, that is a real thing. I brought it up to Bob, and
There is a development going in also right across the street from that. The Rialto is going to have 3 liquor licenses that will be there, so they will probably use that parking as well.
right, but they're not opposing the Rialto, they're opposing you, and this one where it's at. And I just, parking's parking, and we have a lease with a strategic partner on downtown.
One, I don't like being kind of put into a situation of being almost called on the mat about parking. I think that's a really interesting tone for us to take whenever it comes to a plus or minus on a small business. It's small
Well,
business.
it's fact, Dan, and I brought it up to these people beforehand. It's a fact, we have a lease with a strategic partner on a piece of property.
So we will walk away from a potential business because of a lease of a parking lot.
For 4, no, we would for a bunch of other reasons, but the cherry on top happens to be a lease for 50 parking spots where we have parking problems in downtown. It's pretty black and white to me.
Parking's an issue, but the ordinance is also an issue. The ordinance is there for a reason.
I would also say the ordinance is there for a reason, but so is the Board of Adjustment in this appeal process. And that's why we're here today. And so it is there for a reason, but that's why we have to consider on a case-by-case basis. I am a man of faith, and I agree and respect the ordinances in place to protect the schools and protect the places of worship. I don't know if it applies specifically in this case, because it's not right across the street. It's not right next door. It's different type of environment. It's around, but other than the rear entry, it's out of sight, and people will not be going in and out. And if so, we can file a complaint, we can revoke said license. It's facing Broadway, a main corridor, whereas the church is not facing that street. It's on the other side of the block. I have an issue because if we want to, the precedence words getting thrown around like, beating a dead horse, but it's almost walking distance from where the frontage of his establishment is going to be and where the Rialto is going to be. I mean, and if you're going to talk about where the buffer is that's going to protect said places of worship, I don't, that's where I struggle. And so, I would have issue with it if it was right across the street or right next door, or it's a little different scenario, and that's why we have this process to review the ordinance and see if it directly applies in this circumstance.
Well, it is an adjacent property. The Rialto is not within the 200 feet.
It's not within it, that was my point. But it's within the parking lot that there is an issue of concern. It is almost equal distance from that parking lot. And if we're worried about the parking spaces, they're going to take up the parking spaces here in a couple months when they open. I know they're going to have rear parking, but people are going to park in front.
I don't think,
And we can only, and to Dan's point with parking is that every business up and down Broadway is part of it. It's not unique to Cape Girardeau. It's any historic downtown. There's going to be parking issues. We can only hope that it becomes a pedestrian thoroughfare with shopping and shops and establishments and eateries and whatever we can through that alleyway there, or not through that main thoroughfare going through there. And so, yes, the Rialto is not within 200 feet. It is almost equidistance from the parking lot, though, if you're going to walk, logistically from front door to the parking lot.
But
It's
the
right there.
ordinance doesn't
And
apply
it's
to
not
parking
even-
it
lots.
doesn't apply.
I know it doesn't apply to parking lot. I'm talking practically, and it seems to be that that's an issue, is the parking and their outdoor services and so they're going to have the same effect, is what I'm saying. I know that it has to do 50 feet from building to building, structure to structure, obviously. But there's an alleyway there, and it's the back entrance. You have to walk around it's a little bit different of a scenario than if it was right next door, building to building, corner to corner, they don't share the same frontage at all. The actual building structures don't.
You couldn't even take a picture of both entities together at the same time. There's not an angle from which you can take a picture of this property and also take a picture of the church.
I'd be willing to bet you'd see the steeple of the church if you stood back and took a picture of it. Any other questions of Mr. Gahn?
Yeah. Any other questions?
If not, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Can I make a comment about the ordinance?
Yes, sir.
The ordinance is clear. If nobody opposes it, it's fine. But it's there to protect the churches, and our church is opposing it. It's clear, it's spelled out. It doesn't make any difference if his 165 foot, still not in the 200 foot, faces another direction. It says building to building. If you guys are going to look into it for an excuse to why to grant a business this permit, then take it off the books, because the next time you're going to say the same thing. There is ordinance. It's on the book. It's clear as it can be. Read it. Thank you.
Anybody else? If not, we'll move to the consent agenda. Eric?
Bill number 21-100, an ordinance of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri, imposing a use tax for general revenue purposes at the rate equal to the sales taxes in effect for the privilege of storing, using, and consuming within the city any article of tangible personal property pursuant to the authority granted by and subject to the provisions of Section 144-600 through 144-761 RSM o, providing for the use tax to be repealed, reduced, or raised in the same amount as any six is repealed, reduced, or raised, and providing for submission of the proposal to the qualified voters of the city for their approval election called and to be held in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri on Tuesday, November 2, 2021. An ordinance of the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri imposing a use tax for general revenue purposes at the rate equal to the total sales taxes in effect for the privilege of storing, using, or consuming within the city any tangible personal property pursuant to the authority granted by and subject to the provisions of section 144-600 through 144-761 RSM providing for the use tax to be repealed, reduced, or raised in the same amount as any city sales taxes repealed, reduced, or raised, and providing for the submission of the proposal to the qualified voters of the city for their approval at the special election called and to be held in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri on Tuesday, November 2, 2021. Number 21-105, an ordinance amending Chapter 15 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri regarding construction trade licenses, an ordinance amending Chapter 15 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri regarding construction trade licenses, Bill number 21-106, an ordinance amending Chapter 5 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri regarding liquor licenses, an ordinance amending Chapter 5 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri regarding liquor licenses, Bill number 21-107, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a special warranty deed to St. Francis Foundation Real Estate LLC for the property located at Walnut Street and Southwest End Boulevard in the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a special warranty deed to St. Francis Foundation Real Estate LLC for property located at Walnut Street and Southwest End Boulevard in the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Number 21-108, an ordinance accepting temporary construction easements from various property owners for the West End Boulevard project from Rose Street to Bertling Street in the state of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. An ordinance accepting temporary construction easements from various property owners for the West End Boulevard project from Rose Street to Bertling Street in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Number 21-109, an ordinance accepting permanent drainage easements from various property owners for the West End Boulevard project from Rose Street to Bertling Street in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. An ordinance accepting permanent drainage easements from various property owners for the West End Boulevard project from Rose Street to Bertling Street in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Number 21-110, an ordinance authorizing the acquisition of temporary construction easements and rights of way from various property owners for the Street project in the state of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Ordinance authorizing the acquisition of temporary construction easements and rights of way from various property owners for the Sprigg Street project in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Number 21-111, an ordinance vacating the city's interest in the sanitary sewer and utility easement located at 2430 Golden Street in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. An ordinance vacating the city's interest in the sanitary sewer and utility easement located at 2430 Golden Street in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Number 21-112, an ordinance vacating the city's interest in a portion of right-of-way of Northview Drive and retaining a utility easement in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. An ordinance vacating the city's interest in a portion of right-of-way of Northview Drive and retaining a utility easement in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Number 21-113, a resolution authorizing city manager to execute an agreement with Tote Roofing Construction for the River Heritage Museum renovations in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
You have before you the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Dan, seconded by Shannon. Any discussion? I will say, in regards to Bill number 21-100, the use tax ordinance,
You mean internet sales tax, Mayor?
well, it's either or, it's the same thing. We have a new city manager, Kenny, who came here from a city where they already have this tax. And it's, as we talk about this, I asked him, I said, well, what do you think about this? And he wrote down some things that is very, very insightful for somebody who has not been here very long. And I thought it was important to read tonight, so I'm going to do that. It says the online sales initiative must go toward bolstering the general fund for operations. Operations translate into the services and the people, the employees, that provide those services. Services such as fire, police, planning, building, engineering services, code enforcement, park and cemetery maintenance, street maintenance, and including pothole patching, leaf pickup, snow removal, traffic signal maintenance, etc. Our operations have always been funded through sales taxes, but without capturing the taxes from internet sales, those operations and those people are struggling to provide the level of services that our citizens are accustomed to. Our cost to provide those services and support our people outpacing the revenues we bring in from our brick and mortar stores. Other people have done more with less for a long time, but it is not sustainable. And soon, we will either need to reduce services and people, or we can bring in the missing tax revenue from internet sales and fix the problem. Says it right on, I mean, just as accurate as you can be, and this is from somebody who's not even, he just got here. And he knows what's going on. This is the most important thing, next to hiring him, that I will ever do on the city council. And I encourage the public out there to listen to his words and to listen to some of the comments you're going to hear in upcoming weeks and months about how our city has struggled. 2 years ago, we cut $1 million from the budget. We've cut and we've cut and we cut, and we cannot do it anymore. People want their trash picked up twice a week. They want their recycling picked up once a week. They want their leaf picked up. All these things occur because we're able to provide these services. They want their potholes fixed. Granted, we have funds in TTF to do some of that, but some of that also comes out of the general fund. And it's difficult to keep doing. We cannot keep doing it. So I just want to make those comments before we vote to pass this and do it for sure in November. So.
Not to mention, if we're not able to capture that sales tax through the internet sales, then those funds are not also adequately funded, such as transportation trust.
That's right.
In the Parks and Rec. All those initiatives that were passed
All
by the
those
voters,
initiatives also go.
they will suffer as
also.
well. We have, it's almost as if the metaphor is a ship, and we have a leak
And
in the
it's-
ship, and we have to plug it, or else we'll continue to leak.
And I've said this
sink.
before, Amazon and Walmart are getting rich off of tax that we ought to be collecting for our city. And it's, you know, I look at people as business people, and they're struggling. They struggle to compete with people who buy things online all the time. So think about this and pass the word.
And I know millions of people watched Jeff Bezos go to space 2 weeks ago. And just remember,
I was waiting for it, Dan.
Jeff Bezos, the founder and chairman of Amazon, literally took the money that he did not have to pay in Missouri and built a rocket ship and went into space. Our small business owners in this take the money that they their businesses and reinvest it in this town. And so that's what we've got to realize. Amazon does not pay to fix the streets. Amazon does not pay when the police department has to go respond to a porch pirate. So Jeff Bezos is going to space. Our business owners are going to Schnucks and Walmart games and enrolling their kids in school. And so this, online sales tax, it sounds like a scary thing, but what it is it's just allowing our city to capture the things that allowed Jeff Bezos to go to space. Just putting it out there.
I'm glad you did, Dan.
Any other comments?
The only thing I would add is, and we've all said this too, and look at public safety, and I look at the fire and police, and the general revenue directly funds public safety. And regardless of what our statistics say, we know that we want to be the safest community in Missouri, and we got to get there, and we got to continue to fund those too. So, anyway.
I would echo all that, just to add to, though, that I think we're the last state in the whole country to pass this. There's not many issues that our entire country agrees on.
Right.
But we're finally coming to the table. We need to.
Great point, Stacy. Yeah.
It's an important thing for our community.
Okay, if no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. New ordinances, Bill number 21-114, an ordinance appropriating the expenditure of American Rescue Plan funds for the public safety professional services for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022 in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Bill number 21-115, an ordinance appropriating the expenditure of American Rescue Plan funds for stormwater inflow and infiltration enhancements for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022 in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Robbie. Any discussion?
Can I just add, this is a large chunk of the money we're receiving. I've had a few questions, just about why this is needed, and maybe it's not a quick thing to answer, but Kenny or staff could just, it's a citywide issue.
That's correct.
And, I don't know if
Molly?
Dustin has something to add.
Sure. Inflow and infiltration, or what we refer to as I&I work, is basically to seal up our pipes so that we don't get stormwater inflowing into our sewer system, which then as we go to the sewer treatment plant, it eats up a lot of our capacity in our brand new wastewater treatment facility. That capacity is defined, and we don't want to use it up unnecessarily treating rainwater. So I&I allows us to go in and seal up those pipes, prevent that stormwater from infiltrating our system. It preserves the capacity of the plant. It's something that we were able to do some of that work when we built up the plant. There's significantly more work to do all throughout the city. So it's something that we need to do to
In that, I heard a statistic at one point, and I hate to put you on the spot. Can you talk about when we have those high rain volumes, what it can do to the system as far as percentages, kind of give people an idea, maybe?
Yeah, they are council members. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, and I don't know that Stan is with us this evening, he would know those numbers like that. But the capacity of the plant is limited. I don't remember how many millions of gallons of water it can treat each day.
We do 6 million gallons per day.
But when we have, millions of stormwater gallons infiltrating that system, that's unnecessarily taxing the plant. It's eating up capacity that could otherwise be used for future development within the city. And so it's very important that we contain that infiltration, seal up those pipes, and prevent that capacity from being wasted.
Okay. The serious concern, I understand, is that if we ever had a huge major rain event, 10 to 12 inches at once, and that plant reaches its capacity, above its capacity, then you're in violation. And once you're in violation until you fix it, which means building more stormwater plant, which is a 25...
Or going back to fixing I&I.
Or going back to fixing all the I&I, but...
Mandated to do this, and if we were to have an illegal discharge because the plant was over capacity and we had an illegal discharge, then the DNR could come in and mandate that we do this. We would rather take care of it at our pace. This is an excellent funding opportunity to tackle that, and so yes, it is a considerable amount, but it's work that needs to be done, and this is an easy way for us to tackle it.
Thank you, Molly.
Any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Bill number 21-116, an ordinance appropriating the expenditure of American Rescue Plan funds for the Lorimer Street project for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022 in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
So moved.
Wait a second. Okay. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Bill number 21-117, an ordinance appropriating the expenditure of American Rescue Plan funds for the fiber optic routing for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022 in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
Molly, since we're being able to spend the money on this, does that help? Was it going to come out of the budget on that of the new city hall?
The fiber was not something that we had originally included in the city hall budget, as we think that we had other mechanisms in place to accomplish that.
Perfect.
So this is a good way to accomplish this.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Bill number 21-118, an ordinance vacating the city's interest in a portion of the former Seamers Drive right-of-way in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Motion made and seconded. I think Dan and Shannon. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Bill number 2119, an ordinance approving the record plat of Ferndale Anthony Southwest subdivision.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Bill number 21-120, an ordinance providing for the levying of the annual city revenue tax, public health tax, special district number 2, special business district number 2 for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Bill number 21-121, an ordinance annexing land to the city limits of the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri, located at 530 County Road 317, upon the request of JMD Industries Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Bill number 21-122, an ordinance amending Chapter 30 of the Code of Ordinances in the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri by zoning the newly annexed property located at 530 County Road 317 as C2 Highway Commercial District.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Bill number 21-123, an ordinance extending the boundaries of Ward 6 to include property newly annexed into the city limits of the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
I'll move.
Second.
I figured you had to move that. It's your ward.
She gets
Any
more
discussion?
annexes than anybody.
It's a lot of property.
Yes, she does. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Your ward gets bigger. Bill number 21-124, an ordinance granting a special use permit to Mark A. Conrad and Delorch Properties LLC for the purpose of constructing, maintaining, and operating a vehicle sales business at 1295 Independence Street in the city and county of Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
I just wanted to thank Mr. Conrad for coming and speaking with us today. While it's just outside of my ward, as someone whose family walks by all those vacant lots frequently, I look forward to seeing you upscaling that area and what you're going to put in there and making it look nicer. So thanks for moving into that area.
You'll be well, please.
Good.
Thank you for investing in Jake.
Thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Bill number 21-125, an ordinance accepting a permanent water line easement from Starview Cape LP for Starview subdivision in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
Mayor, please mark my vote an abstention due to financial conflict of interest.
All right. That's done. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. You didn't say aye, did you?
I don't know, yeah, I probably did, but I abstained first. Muscleman.
We have
yeah.
3 appointments this evening. We have an
Nation-
appointment to the River Campus Board of Managers, and that is Kenny Haskin.
Motion to appoint Kenny to all 3.
Second.
We also, well, here's the situation. Scott Meyer, city manager, was on the board of, River Campus Board of Managers, Show Me Center Board of Managers, and the Convention and Visitors Bureau Executive Board. Since he's retired, we need to appoint Kenny to all 3. So I'll entertain a motion that we do that. So moved. Do it. Seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Kenny, you have a lot.
I was waiting for that, yeah.
That's what happens.
Oh, boy.
Par for the course. All 3 are great organizations and great things to do in the city, so that's good. Our other business this evening is an appeal of the Board of Adjustments decision regarding a liquor license request for consent by Adam Edward Gahn, DBA Phi Hospitality, for property located at 531 Broadway. We have had considerable discussion and input this evening, and at this point,
I would make a motion to uphold the Board of Appeals decision.
Do I hear a second? I'll second it.
Okay?
You've heard the talk. And
Excuse me, the Board of Adjustment.
Board of
Sorry. Board of Adjustment.
any other discussion?
So,
On the motion.
well, let's clarify the language.
If we uphold the
Sorry.
Board of Adjustment's decision, it denies the liquor license.
So a yes vote denies the liquor license.
Correct.
And a yes vote just upholds our city ordinance. Now, I know, and I'm all pro-business also, but and I will go back to what my comments were earlier. I was really disappointed that a business person who knows he's within that distance would not make a number of attempts to contact the church involved, no matter what church it is, and try to alleviate those things and point out those things that he pointed out to us. But that was never done. In my mind, that's bad business.
I would just add that any time that we've had any, well, I've already said enough. We're good.
And we have not had, in my recollection, a congregation oppose a liquor license, because in the past, I think if there was a situation where someone was within 200 feet, they did make an effort to go talk to them and explain what it is and what they're doing. And that was not done here. That's gross negligence on somebody who wants to start a business, in my mind.
To me, that's more of a personal issue. Like, that's more of a personality, business personality. We deal with difficult business people all the time. We've dealt with lots of difficult personalities when it comes to issuing business licenses. And so we can't select just this one liquor license to start going into to what they did personally to reach out to people around.
But that's his personal opinion and his personal vote.
I'm just stating my opinion, and
We have an ordinance that says that you don't do this. The whole building's within 200 feet.
In my mind, that's the big thing.
I mean, get rid of the ordinance. You
back of the
don't want the
building is-
ordinance.
So here's my thing, and I said it already. Get rid of the ordinance, whatever. That's not a valid argument. That's why we have this process in place with the Board of Appeals and with us being able to overrule the Board of Appeals. And I will, or Board of Adjustments. Thanks. I will go back to, I probably came in here with my knowledge of being briefed on this issue, being in support of the liquor license for that business, because I would hate to stifle the business interests wanting to develop a whole block of Broadway. And I hate that people are wanting to invest into our city and put it on that block. I will say that the point is well taken by Mr. Bodine, that the ordinance is there for a reason. The ordinance is there to protect those places of worship. If you didn't have the overwhelming amount of support here, very visibly and vocally against it, then I would consider otherwise. But it obviously is of great importance to you, and that's why this is here, to protect you. And if it wasn't a big issue, then you wouldn't be here and you wouldn't have said it. So I have to be respectful of that as the reason why this ordinance exists. And so I have to take that into consideration.
Any other discussion, any other comments? You have a motion and a second. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
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 That's 4.
Raise your hands if you're an aye, so we know for sure. Okay? The decision of the Board of Adjustment is upheld.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
We do not have a closed session tonight, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
That was fun.